Hej och välkommen till Röda Sten Konsthall. Vi kommer snart att öppna utställningen The More Tongues You Silence, The More They Talk av Lala Raščić. Jag heter Mia Christersdotter Norman, jag är verksamhetschef här och det här är utställningens kurator, Amila Puzić. Välkommen till öppningen av utställningen Desto fler tungor som tystas, ju mer talar de, av Lala Raščić. För ungefär 1,5 år sedan bjöd vi in både utställningens kurator Amila Puzić och konstnären Lala Raščić att göra en separat utställning som första utställning här på Röda Sten Konsthall 2021. Därtill utmanade vi Raščić att hitta ett samarbete med musikensemblen Göteborg Barock. Göteborg Barock är sedan lång tid tillbaka en av Röda Sten Konsthalls samarbetspartners och har spelat såväl operor som andra uppsättningar hos oss. Inför 2021 planerar de att sätta upp Monteverdis opera på PS kröning från 1642. Operan, som är ungefär 400 år gammal, förhåller sig sålunda till Göteborgs 400-årsjubileum som infaller i år. Nu vet vi ju alla att året 2020 inte blev som någon kunde föreställa sig. Göteborgs 400-årsfirande är uppskjutet till 2023 och vi lever fortfarande med regleringar för att hålla pandemins smitta nere. Detta har också präglat produktionen av denna utställning. Det samarbete som skulle blivit en opera på plats har blivit en film. Och Raščić nya konstverk har arbetats fram i tät digital dialog istället för att göras på plats. Verket på PS Pan har tillkommit genom en omfattande research av både Raščić och kurator Amila Puzić. Ljudinspelningar på plats på Röda Sten Konsthall kunde genomföras under hösten då Raščić var på ett kortare besök hos oss. Lala Raščić utgår i sitt konstnärskap från gamla folksägner och antika myter i kombination med feministisk teori och performativa uttryck. Hon har i verket på PS Pans och samarbetet med Göteborg Barock utgått från en bosnisk folklig tradition som heter tepsijane. Den något svåröversatta betydelsen är ungefär att sjunga i pannor. Och då pannor i bemärkelsen kokkärl. Traditionen uppstod under det ottomanska riket och praktiserades samtidigt som Monteverdi komponerade sina operor. Bakgrunden är kvinnors begränsade möjligheter att uttrycka sig i offentlighet och praktiseras än idag. I Popeas Pans möts en folklig kvinnlig tradition och opera, som inte sällan ses som den västerländska kulturens höjdpunkt. Lala Raščić verk och Popeas kröning kan förstås på många olika vis, men Raščić feministiska ansats är betydelsefull för Röda Sten Konsthall som institution. I år uppmärksammar vi nämligen inte bara 400-årsdagen för Göteborgs födelse, utan det är 100 år sedan svenska kvinnor fick rösträtt. Utöver det nya verket visar Raščić en rad projekt och verk från tiden 2015 till 2020. Det är första gången hon visas i Sverige, så vi är väldigt glada och stolta över denna utställning och samarbete. Jag vill därför tacka Lala Raščić, Amila Puzić och Göteborg Barock för engagemang, entusiasm och samarbete.
The solo exhibition of Lala Raščić, The More Tongues You Silence, The More They Talk, includes works realized between 2015 and 2021. The exhibition presents 4 art projects: Evil Earth, EE0, Gorgo, and Popeas Pans. Each of the projects presented at the exhibition is accompanied by the print that physically connects and encapsulates different thematic segments of the exhibition. Site-specific installation, Popeas Pans, is a product of collaboration between Lala Raščić and the early music ensemble Göteborg Baroque, made purposely for this exhibition and commissioned by the Röda Sten Konsthall. The exhibition title is also inspired by the artist's collaboration with Göteborg Baroque, and it is based on the libretto of the opera La Incoronazione di Poppea, written by Giovanni Francesco Bussanello and composed by Claudio Monteverdis. It is the first opera to derive its plot from a historical theme. It is based on a story of love and power between the Roman Emperor Nero and future Empress Sabina Poppea. The More Thanks You Silence, the More They Talk takes place at the intersection of history, ideology, feminist and literary theories, and artistic practice. The common thread of the exhibition, on one hand, weaves around the issue of gender and the vision of society, and the relationship between gender and power, and on the other hand, around the issue of the art field in the context of production relations and the function of art. In her work, Raščić analyzes the representation of women in classical literature, pointing to the fact that the tense and complex relationship between gender and power allows the understanding of both the social and historical context in which cultural content is produced, and the position and role of women in socio-political hierarchy. By reinterpreting and reenacting prominent ancient myths, the artist examines the limited rights of women to speak and act in the public sphere. In this respect, she observes the mechanisms of silencing women embedded in the Western cultural matrix, operating on the principle of their exclusion from the centers of power. The exhibition explores the relationship between the contemporary means of art production and traditional craft production, at the same time questioning women's work and the sphere of production in relation to characteristic political and socio-economic conditions. Raščić connects the matter of exposure and reception of art with a critical analysis of the canon of art history from the feminist perspective. In this regard, she raises the question of the way women are represented in art history, insisting on the fact that women are historical subjects and that it is necessary to break with deep-seated patterns of their representation as mythological beings or timeless muses whose appearance is based on a transhistorical paradigm. In this regard, the message of the exhibition is comprehensible. The more thanks you silence, the more they talk about burning issues of economic and social inequalities, oppression, injustice, natural disasters, racism, xenophobia, and about all other forms of violence against nature and humans.
Non morir, non morir, se
Hello, Amila.
Wow. Hi, Lala.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having you. I'm really happy. And I would like to thank you for a year-long journey that
yes,
was consisted of many conversations and mostly online encounters, and for the research and for the new production itself. And it was, and it still is, a very fruitful and inspiring process.
Well, I'm really glad you think that. It was a great experience for me, and I have to thank you for inviting me to do this exhibition at Röda Sten Konsthall, and I'm very thankful also that, for the whole crew at Röda Sten Konsthall for having me. And you know, everybody has been great in this period where we actually installed the show. It was supposed to be something, and it then took us through different adventures. And in the end, I'm not there to do this artist talk, so we have to film it.
Yes, and I would like to start the dialogue by giving a short introduction about your work for our audience. Lala Raščić was born in Sarajevo, and she's been living and working in Sarajevo, Zagreb, and New Orleans. She has studied at the Academy of Fine Arts in Zagreb and Rijksacademy in Amsterdam. Raščić is a multimedia artist exploring tangible and intangible cultural forms to build narratives that are manifested through video, performances, installations, objects, drawings, and so on. Her interests are at the same time trained on contemporary and historical storytelling practices, knowledge production, as well as folkloric forms and mythology. Raščić's practice inhabits the space between concept and theatricality, often confronting artifacts of high culture with lesser traditions through a contemporary, namely feminist position. Raščić has exhibited extensively since 1998, to name some of her solo shows, at the Acadiana Center for the Arts in Lafayette, Good Children Gallery in New Orleans, Culture Center Tobačina and Škuc Gallery in Ljubljana, GFZK in Leipzig, and the Sigmund Freud Museum in Vienna. Lala also took part in various group shows around the world. Well, we are finally calm and I would say happy that we did everything on time, despite the crazy and uncertain times we've been living through, as you already mentioned. Definitely. And let's talk about the exhibition. The more tongues you silence, the more they talk. 4 projects realized between 2015 and 2021 are being exhibited at Röda Sten Konsthall. These are Evil Earth, EE0, Gorgo, and the new production Popes Pans. I will now ask a very broad question. What do these projects have in common?
That is indeed a very broad question. And, you know, it's been, as I just have to say, it's been a real pleasure working with you. And it has been very interesting to see the selection process of how you actually decided to, from my whole practice, to choose especially these 4 projects, of which one is a new production. So let's say 3 older projects, which span the space now of, let's say, 6 years, well, 5 years. And, you know, the world has changed very much. It always does in 5 years. But, you know, with the new global situation, you know, it has changed drastically. And, you know, if my concerns were the same as they would, if they would be the same as nothing would have happened without this pandemic, maybe I would be able to give you a bit of a more concise answer or a more straightforward answer. But now I just have to, you know, retort to saying that what I think that these 4 projects shown there with all their satellite elements have in common is actually the idea that humans are biologically conditioned to form narratives to explain the external world. And that
Thank you.
by these narratives, I mean myths, stories, drawings.
And yeah, and in this context, I would just like briefly to mention that my curatorial approach was to exhibit your recent projects as a one multidimensional and multi-layered piece that relies on the physical engagement. And we will talk about that later if we have time.
If we have time.
Yeah. Yeah, time is always problem. For this exhibition, you developed the new size-specific art piece, The Past Pants, in collaboration with the early music ensemble Gothenburg Baroque. And the collaboration was developed around the theme of the opera La Incorazione di Poppea, or in English, The Coronation of Poppea by Claudio Monteverdis. And the ensemble was supposed to stage the opera during the opening of your exhibition, but the situation with the pandemic affected the whole process, which led to certain changes in the program and unfortunately canceling the staging of the opera. Regardless, the new production is based on the research of the opera, or more precisely on the research of the libretto written by Giovanni Francesco Bussanello. And even the exhibition title is taken from the libretto. I know that this research was very important to you, to me as well. And if you can tell us a little bit how it went.
Well, the thing is, when I got your invitation from Röda Sten Konsthall to do this show, one of the, let's say, caveats was that there is a expected collaboration with an early music ensemble, and I was curated to do this because of my practice, and I thought actually that just collaborating with early music ensemble and working on an opera was like this most fantastic opportunity. Well, I will be able to show my forte as an artist. Unfortunately, these productions were canceled due to limitations of public gatherings and so on. Not to go into that much, but as this was given as this starting point, I decided to stick with it because, as we realized that we're not going to be able to do the full opera production. I still wanted to retain a little bit of what I did during my research. And what I thought was the most interesting thing is that the fact that Incoronazione di Poppea is a first opera that's based on historical facts and characters. So it is based on the Roman Emperor Nero and his, I think, second wife, Sabina Poppea. And the whole libretto and the whole opera is kind of written in this spirit that is not fair, that kind of tries to stay away from this Christian moralizing. It is the 1600s, Venice, but but at the same time it has been traditionally and through history interpreted, the character of Sabina Poppea has been interpreted as a backstabbing gold digger that will do anything to attain power with intrigues and schemes and so on. Whereas I saw that, whereas in reading the libretto, actually I tried to read beneath the lines and figure out actually how can we exonerate Poppea from this bad reputation that has been traditionally and historically attributed to her, or any woman that actually tried to go out and get what she wants. So I researched during this phase of research, I researched a lot of Roman law and what were property and marital laws and how they pertain to women. And I also discovered something wonderful, that actually Sabina Poppea had a villa, owned a villa near Pompeii, and her villa, Villa Oplontis, Villa A in Oplontis, was covered, buried in the volcano eruption at the same time as Pompeii. And that research and excavation of Sabina Poppea's villa made groundbreaking archaeobotanist principles by archaeobotanist Wilhelmina Jastrzębinski. Now, this was a part of the research that I really wanted to work with and, you know, integrate it into something that would be an installation, a set design that the Gothenburg Baroque could perform coronation of Poppaea. I wanted to recreate that garden based on these archaeological finds, but of course, that didn't happen. Instead, I really thought about, went into deep research of the libretto and thought about what we have in the text that is more, talks more to the relationship of gender and power. And also very much, without having to do with gender, also there's a very big segments about, you know, where Nero and Seneca are discussing, which is a discussion about absolute power and the critique of it. And from that conversation, we took the title, The More Tongues You Silence, the more they will speak. And it's a paraphrase from actually Busanello. So basically, I concentrated on some overreaching themes in the libretto of the opera L'Incarnazione di Poppea. And also, I was very much intrigued by, you know, what opera means as an art form.
Yes, and you also brought into the surface something that was omitted in the performance of opera itself. So that is very interesting. And it's also interesting that, as you said, you worked with the mixture of what is considered as highbrow and lowbrow artistic forms. Opera as a civilizational epitome and the folklore cultural practice from Bosnia and Herzegovina called tepsijanje, which means singing along with a pan. And can you explain to the audience what is this practice and how did you manage to transform it into the art piece for this show?
So I came in contact with this folkloric form over 10 years ago when I was first starting my research on oral literary traditions from this region, from in and around Bosnia. So and these oral traditions, mostly heroic epic, were mostly reserved for male singers. And I came across this tradition that is called tepsijanje, which is reserved almost exclusively, and was reserved almost exclusively for women. And what is it? It is using the pan, a cooking pan, a baking sheet, a round baking sheet, as an idiophone instrument. Women in patriarchal society were forbidden to play instruments and perform music publicly, but they would do so within the confines of the house and of the kitchen very often. So when there were big feasts and auspicious occasions, women would gather in the kitchen, and once the food was done and served, cooked and served, they would have the empty pan. So they would spin it. They would stand the pan up and spin it around its axis, and as the pan would spin, it would they would sing into it, and from the force of the spinning, it would break the sound wave of the voice and therefore create a tremolo effect, which was best heard by the singer and people standing right behind the singer. And that's how the tradition originated. Little by little, as these traditions morph and become folklore, this singing into the pan became a custom that was performed very much at weddings and at ceremonies of betrothal, when two people get engaged and when they ask for the bride and things like that. So I thought this was a tradition that was very apt to be put in touch with the opera, whose main storyline is actually marriage of Sabina Popea to the Emperor Nero. Now, as I said, Sabina Popea was very much considered and interpreted through this opera and all these subsequent interpretations of it as a negative character, as somebody that will do anything for to get ahead. I saw that a little bit wrong and unfair, because I think women in general in history are portrayed in a negative light, and I found it as a very nice story of love, actually, that love conquers everything. And I wanted to emancipate or exonerate Popea from this negative narrative, and I also wanted to emancipate this folkloric tradition, it's a very rural one, and it's not very well researched, and it's very basic. You can't go very much into theory about it. There's been few researchers, but that's about it. It hasn't developed much. So whereas opera as an art form is super refined. So I thought that it would be a beautiful example of emancipation of women's creativity and women's narrative, to put these two together and to meld them in one installation. So in Röda Sten Konsthall, I have actual pans that are spinning on mechanisms in the space, in the very acoustic space of the Cathedral of Röda Sten. And I have speakers right next to them, which actually pose as these, instead of these rural women singers that would be singing in the kitchen, I have members of the Gothenburg Baroque singing beautiful arias in fantastic polyphony.
And it's obvious that this relies on the concept of democratization of the opera as a genre. And I would also like to mention that you started this research 10 years ago. And for this purpose, you collaborated again with the only Bosnian coppersmith, female coppersmith, Nermina Beba Alić, with whom you collaborated previously for your project Gorgo. And this collaboration really opens up a lot of questions that are connected to the art field, but also those that are going beyond the contemporary art. And to me, the fact that you included the craft work in your art production seems as a very important approach. How do you see this process and the collaboration with Nermina Alić?
So very often my research and my projects kind of are symbiotically linked, and so is the project Gorgo with the new commission, Popea's Pens, which wouldn't have taken that shape if I hadn't realized a previous collaboration with Nermina Beba Alić. And that started when I was working on Gorgo, which has the premise that I will embody or enact the character, the mythical character of Medusa, who is being rejoined with her head, whose head was severed by Perseus. We know that story. And for this scene, for this gesture, I wanted to create an armor to protect this newly this newly rejoined with her body Medusa, this newly made whole Medusa. I wanted her to protect her with an armor, but at the same time, I didn't want to do this fighting armor. I wanted to use an armor out of material that is more tactile, more tied to the home, more warm and more gentle. And I really wanted to bring into contact this classical myth of Medusa with traditional craft from the region that I'm from. And it was more of a conceptual idea that, oh, okay, maybe it would be great that if I'm going to arm this Medusa, like in the classical literature, you have the arming of the hero, like a formula, if I'm arming a woman, wouldn't it be great that a woman makes my shield? So I sought out to see if there's a female coppersmith, and indeed I found Nermina Beba Alic. And in this procedure, I kind of came from concept through execution. I made it kind of came together in absolute harmony of something that you might say of content. It would be parallel as harmony of content and form, because I had this like conceptual idea that this should be a woman that is making this armor, and then it just the armor was produced by her. And in this process, we had developed a very profound relationship of friendship and exchange. I learned a lot, and it was not really something that a relationship where I came and ordered something and had this kind of commissioning and outsourcing of authenticity, but we really became partners in this project. And I know that she took a lot of pride and care into making this, but at the same time it was a lot of pull and pull, and I think she learned also a lot with me.
Yes, that's why I said that this collaboration opens up a lot of questions, such as authorship, participation, democratization. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to discuss all of them, but I'm sure that we will have that opportunity during the so another artist talk with Gothenburg Baroque, and we are going to have a lecture from the art scholar and theorist Jelena Petrovic. But now let's back to the exhibition, and the main question I would like to. So you mentioned that your research is based on readings of historical and contemporary art, feminist theory, and the notion of the patriarchy, or to be more precise, the critique of the patriarchy is somehow in the core of your work. You also showed that the patriarchy has the same oppressive mechanisms through history, right? And how do you perceive this? And can you tell us a bit more about this in the context of the projects that are exhibited at Röda Sten?
Well, I first have to say that my work has taken a very a feminist turn, thanks to my close relationship with the art organization for art and culture Crvena, in collaboration with their curators and some of their members, and also the feminist scholar Jelena Petrovic, with who and a member of Crvena, Andrea Duganjic, I have worked on the project Europa Enterprise. So their inputs has very much informed some of my ideas, and I have to say that. And even though I was in my previous work, I was very much addressing problems of dominance and hegemonies, I didn't really much define it as the problem of patriarchy, and this problem of patriarchy actually comes to the fore when looking at ancient myths. And this is something that I really went back, and this is an interest that I came to through researching, as I mentioned, oral traditions of this region. I came to Homer, and subsequently then to dealing with myths and needing to work on subversive narratives, on finding problems within these myths. So what is incredible, and what is, we know that, ancient myths, especially Greek myths, have been a kind of formative for the moral texture, for the moral fiber of the society we live in. And let's say, we are a part of this, Eurocentric Western canon. And, these myths have been very formative, and they haven't changed. And it's not for nothing that people from this canon always keep coming back to the classics. Philosophers, theater, comedians, mythographers, you name it, historians, and what is really disturbing is that what you find that in these myths, you have absolutely normalized violence against women, you have absolutely normalized rape, and you have it's completely standard that woman stands for something negative unless she is a docile or a very submissive creature. And this is a result of a shift in society that came with the advent of the patriarchal society, which can be very much equated with land ownership, with the first settlements, with patrilineage, and with individualism, and there is direct connection to capitalism and this neoliberal conundrum that we're living through, which we can't really kind of get out of. And it is fair to say that maybe these ancient narratives are the ones to blame.
Yes, that is very connected to the next question that I want to pose. It's like what the classical literature or the artistic practices that are over 300 years old tell us about the position of women and their representation today, and what does the past tell us about the present times that we are living through? And you partly answered this question. But
yeah,
maybe you have something to add.
I think I answered it, but maybe I can, add to that, to say that we have this, problem, but, we can perhaps change these narratives, because, if we look at the theory of myth, myth is different from folktale, and it's different from legend. It never happened. It actually happened. It's true. People think it's true, but it's happened in a parallel time. And the theoretician Mircea Eliade really writes a lot about this mythical time as a parallel time. And, we can speculate, and I use this kind of idea as a speculative tool, where we can actually think about myth as happening in this parallel tar time. So it never finished. This time never finished. It's a suspended duration. And we can jump into it, let's say speculatively, and change these narratives. We can say that Arachne doesn't feel wretched because she's transformed into a spider. We can say with our, contemporary lenses, that actually Arachne as a non-human entity is fine in her body of a monster. She is fine after having undergone this metamorphosis. It hasn't been a curse. We can also speculate about, like, what will Medusa do if she gets her head back, and we put her head back, and, is she going to seek vengeance? What she want? And what kind of new world can she build if we do this process of, let's say, remythization?
That's a good point. And the last question, maybe this should be addressed to the curator, but
do you want me to ask the question?
curious, how do you see the function of the exhibition and into relation to the current situation with the pandemic, and to the fact that the mediation of the exhibition is mostly taking place online? And we also talked a lot about art and the projects that are exposed at the exhibition, because, you know, this is a kind of a different experience of the format of the artist talk as well. Yes. And many of our listeners won't be able to see the show. So that's why I think it was somehow important to give a kind of an overview of the exhibition and the works that are presented there. So yeah, I would like to ask the audience, the listeners, to bear with us, and yeah, please answer my question. If you have any thoughts.
I mean, it's a pity that not more people will be able to see the show, and it's really, the thing is that I haven't seen the show either. And, you know, it was conceptualized as, you know, a multi-sensory experience. And I think it's one of the more complex exhibitions that I've done until now, because it has components in this very specific acoustic space of Röda Sten Konsthall, you know, where you have to actually experience it there viscerally. And there's so many elements that, you know, that are, you know, reflections, and I think it's very hard to even photograph this exhibition. And it might be kind of silly to put on the stage something like this, an exhibition like this in these times. But on the other hand, I think it's wonderful that in times of, you know, a mandated physical distancing, you can actually go into the space, which I said is so multisensory and actually needs an intimate experience, that you will always be alone in the show. If you actually are in Gothenburg and you want to go and see it, you will have this intimate experience of this exhibition, kind of one-on-one. And I think it's very warm. It's very much in material. It's very much in different details of how these materials, you know, rub together, work together, how the light reflects from them. And we have a whole floor with drawings, which is very delicate. It's only paper, very small things. After, you know, coming into contact with this super monumental, yet kind of a little illusionistic and theatrical cathedral, you know, which is echoing with reflections and with ricochets of sound. And then I think on the last floor you have EE0, which is a very heavy, text-heavy video, half-hour video, to kind of, you know, to put you in a bit of a more contemplative state. If you had downstairs, you had a little bit of a wow and uplifting, almost like the feeling when you come. I wanted that feeling, you know, when you come into the Hagia Sophia and you feel kind of uplifted. I worked with the tallness of the space, and, you know, with the reflections that are being thrown on the wall. So I hope that it does convey that feeling. I'm not sure how well it can be mediated online, but maybe it's good, because these kind of exhibitions are not meant to be totally mediated online. The ones that go see them are going to be very privileged, I think, and won't regret it, because it's something to be seen. And I think this exhibition provides a little bit of this sort of, as I said, multi-sensory luxury and overload that we're all kind of missing, because we're very much confined to our houses.
And I appreciate this intervention, and that's how actually we democratize the art field, swapping the roles between artist and curator, and curator and artist. And as I wrote in my curatorial essay, like mediation is like two-directed street, which goes from the exhibition to audience and from audience to the exhibition. So I think this is like a very nice ending, and I would like to invite everyone who is in Gothenburg to come and see the show. And would you mind spinning the pen for us?
Sure, and like let's say that, you know, I might be back to Gothenburg before the show is over to do a performance, right?
I really hope so.
So I can go see my show. All right. Look at this. Let me unblur my background.